injecting women with radioactive elements and telling them that it was a vitamin cocktail to help their babies be healthy. You know, in prestigious hospitals, some pregnant woman comes in and the nice doctor in a white coat says, okay, well, we're going to give you a vitamin cocktail here to make your baby healthy. And it's really, you know, I believe, I don't remember if I believe it was plutonium they injected them with. So that's nice.
Yeah, there's several different isotopes that they injected them with, and just to test cancer. So they induced cancer into innocent men, women, and children.
Yeah,
and used Americans as guinea pigs.
And you can imagine, these are the things that are proven. Okay, you can imagine how many things have not been uncovered. You can just imagine it, because obviously they do everything they can to bury this stuff. Start looking into eugenics if you want a whole other horror story. That's part of the bonus material for Tragedy and Hope 101 is I've condensed Eugenics, a Reassessment by Richard Lynn, who is a proponent of eugenics and believes that, unfortunately, although we know the United States government forcibly sterilized 60,000 people, he believes it should have been 60 million. Right. So that'll give you an idea. And at the time, when they were doing the sterilizations, that would have equaled an enormous percentage of the U.S. population. So that's just a whole other issue. And then I also have War Against the Weak, which is the counterpoint, which is an excellent book. So these are condensed versions of those books. Anybody who's interested in eugenics can get the basic gist of what a horror all that was. And then I would, of course, encourage them to actually buy the full books. They might not want to buy Eugenics, a Reassessment because it's a textbook. It's like $140. Most people won't pay that. But the War Against the Weak is an excellent book.
Right.
I've checked into those, and I've not read it, but I saw a video of Professor Lynn or Dr. Lynn giving a speech on the internet, and it was kind of interesting. He's pretty aged, but the people in the audience were obviously, just worshipped him as an earthly god. Like everything that came out of his mouth was true. So it's kind of frightening when you consider that. So let's go ahead and go through some of your books a little bit and talk about those. And what I'd like to do is kind of get a timeline and to underscore, why I think it is that your books are so very important. We have a lot of people writing on a lot of topics. We've had a lot of people go over the Federal Reserve and, the banking cartel, etc. And so the question is, why are Joe Plummer's books so important? And of course, my answer, and we've talked about this before, is that the average person doesn't have time to do the deep level research to read these 1,300-page books like Tragedy and Hope. And what you have a unique talent in doing, I believe, is you go through and you do all the hard, heavy lifting. You read, do the research, and you're able to put all this together in a very organized manner in a much shorter book that could be 175, 200 pages that the average person could, have access to. And so that's one of the reasons I think your books are so important. And not just that, but the topics that you've chosen to write about. So if we could, I'd like to just kind of go through the timeline quickly on some of the books here and just talk about your career in writing. And the first thing I noticed is one of your first books was on stopping drinking without using the AA methodology. So I don't know if you wanted to touch on that just a minute to give us some insight into that.
Well, yeah, that's something I felt, I guess you could use that as proof that I've always had a real problem with information that's widely accepted that is untrue, or that at least I believe is untrue. So, I was forced into this rehabilitation 12-step thing when I was like 12 years old. I started using drugs and drinking at a very young age, obviously. And I'll just never forget, even at that young age, the impact of having this seemingly just this ubiquitous idea of what I was doing was a symptom of a disease, and that I was powerless over this disease, and that for the rest of my life I was going to be a victim of this disease, and the only way I could possibly save myself was to go do these 12 steps and turn my life over to God and all these other things. And I remember thinking to myself at the time how just totally ridiculous all of this sounded, but at the same time being struck by the arrogance and condescending tone of those who defended it when I would say, yeah, but this is ridiculous, or whatever, and they'd say, oh, well, you're just in denial. That's proof that you're in denial, and oh yeah, you're going to fix yourself, and nobody else can, all these other things. And the basic thing boiled down to it, for me, this was what it boiled down to. You're not going to convince me that I am powerless over something that I am physically choosing to do. Now, I understand that it might be emotionally satisfying for some people to, if they're in a predicament and they're engaged in self-destructive behavior, to be told that, well, you know what, it's not your fault, it's a disease, it's out of your control and all this other stuff. But that wasn't something that I could accept, because in my view, I knew what was going on in my mind. I knew how I was representing drinking to myself, how I was representing doing drugs to myself, and I knew that that played the most important role in why I was drinking and doing drugs. Even later, like let's say when I might have decided, okay, I'd like to cut back on this, if I decide, oh, tonight I'm going to go out and I'm going to party, I knew that was directly tied to the associations in my mind of what going out and partying meant. Now, I eventually quit doing all that stuff. I haven't drank since I was 21. I'm 45 now, so that's a long time. I've been sober longer than I was alive when I was doing that stuff. But
well, that
makes sense to me. And if you think about people that have quit smoking, for example, and these are all anecdotal examples. But if you think about, people like I've heard of, they just decided one day to quit smoking. They got fed up with it, and they just made a decision, and that's taking power. Not all of us can do that.
It depends on. Okay, so this is what for anybody who wants to read my thoughts on this, it's short, and it's free. Like everything that I have written, all of my books are available for free online if people don't want to buy them. Same thing with the Stop Drinking. It's basically how to stop anything. It isn't just about drinking. It's about how the associations that you form in your mind ultimately determine your behavior, and how to correct associations that, if you look at them more closely, are clearly not right. So with regard to drinking, when drinking became literally the enemy of everything that I ever hoped to achieve in life, based on the way it was affecting me and affecting my behavior, it became very easy for me to abstain from drinking. Once that became, instead of it's a way to have fun, and it's a way to bond with people, and it's a way to do, all these things that society would imply is the truth about drinking, when it became, it is literally a poison. It poisons me spiritually. It undermines my capacity to achieve my best. It is the enemy of everything that I ever hoped to achieve in my life, because I can't make any progress if I'm doing well and then all of a sudden I go out and I get drunk and I get a DUI and now I'm going to jail. This isn't going to actually help me achieve the things that I ultimately want to achieve in life. It isn't worth it. The cost versus the reward is so out of balance that there is no reward at all. So once people, obviously there's more depth to it than this. It'd be hard for me to summarize it in a paragraph. But the concept is of actually going through and looking through your mind and analyzing what is drawing you to a particular behavior, especially if you know it's counterproductive. And without fail, I promise everybody, whenever they're feeling compelled to do something, they will notice, well, of course, because I'm representing it to myself in a positive way. For whatever reason, my mind at this point has ignored those circuits that prevent or that provide a more honest representation of what all this stuff is, and it's instead focused on these circuits that present this false representation of fun and all these things that if I just slow down a little bit I can reroute my mind back to those other circuits, start to build those up, make those more strong, and let these false ones die out. And this is, an example of neuroplasticity as far as I'm concerned, because once you've done this enough, it is effortless. It becomes effortless because it truly is your honest representation. If you said, hey, Joe, you want to do a couple shots of whiskey? My honest, effortless response is the same as if you said, hey, Joe, you want to do a couple shots of diarrhea? Here you go. I mean, I'm serious. It's literally that. I don't have to struggle to say, no, thanks. I get that you like it. I get that you appear to be having fun doing it. But I don't want it. Thank you. It's just that it really does work that way.
That's pretty amazing.
Well, and hopefully, and people have written me and thanked me for posting it. But that would be an example of, even before I was politically aware or writing politically, that I couldn't accept what was just commonly accepted if I truly believed it wasn't true. It doesn't mean I challenge absolutely everything that's commonly accepted. I believe in gravity, and, I don't have any reason to believe that the Earth revolves around the sun. I don't have any reason to, doubt those things, but other things, yes. If there's a problem, then I have to challenge it.
I like your terminology, about, the circuits and the plasticity, etc. My initial thought is it's kind of a form of self-hypnosis where you're really kind of convincing yourself to a lie, and if you back off and realize the truth, then it'd be easy to, like you said, slow down and realize that it's not helping you and it's not fun at all. Right. So I think that is really, really, absolutely amazing.
Well, I appreciate it, and when people write and say it was very helpful to them, nothing makes me feel better than that.
So let's go forward now. That was around 1998, and if we go forward a few years, we hit 2004, according to my timeline. And you produced a set of recordings, audio recordings, that I've had the pleasure of listening to. And I'm going to listen to them probably once a week or once a month or something, because I found them so helpful just with myself. But you provide some really, really good ideas. And I can't help, of course, I didn't look at the Stop Drinking Kindle that you produced, but it sounds a little bit like, the successful thinking has its roots in some of the Stop Drinking material, as far as I can tell. But I think the ideas that you have about being thankful and appreciative for what you have, and the ideas of contribution, to always contribute, and the ideas of providing value, and also to me is kind of the vision. You talk about having a vision, and so I think there's a lot of really good data in there that if people take a look at that, I think they can benefit from.